and girls, ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages, Star Wars fans from every corner of the galaxy, from far, far away and from a galaxy far, far away and a long time ago and all the way to the modern era now. Ladies and gentlemen, the Acolyte has been an absolute disastrous dumpster for the Walt Disney Company and for Disney Lucasfilm. I mean, you cannot deny the ratings have been abysmal, and it is literally the lowest rated show, lowest rated Star Wars product of all time over there on Rotten Tomatoes. No matter much kind of fluffing they do, no matter what kind of nonsense they try to do, at the end of the day, the fans have spoken, and that's the reason why Disney Star Wars is failing so abysmally bad in the modern era. And many people have been very critical of the show. Now, of course, there's always the kind of same kind of nonsense, always just a bunch of racist, misogynist, yada, yada, yada. But there's been a lot of legitimate criticism out there. Most of the people that are in our corner of the fellowship, and even people out there in the legacy media, are out there coming out against the show and talking about all of the problems with it, about all of the major issues with the storytelling, the pacing, the dialogue, a lot of the bait and switch that we saw, like with Carrie-Anne Moss and some of that kind of stuff. There are a lot of legitimate criticisms out there. But at the exact same time, we have seen the Walt Disney Company, we have seen Hollywood in general, time and time again, try to block this, try to ignore all of the legitimate criticisms out there because they just want to cover all their nonsense up, and they know all of their shows don't hold water when you actually hold them up to a legitimate criticism, so they'll accuse us of being racist and sexist and all the other kind of nonsense BS out there. At the end of the day, the most important thing that we always ask for is the receipts. Trust me, there are plenty of big YouTubers and big rumblers in our corner of the fellowship that have huge followings that get way insane amounts of craziness in their inboxes and all in their emails all the time. And trust me, they have the receipts, boys and girls. They will gladly bring them up to you anytime you ask for them. But at the end of the day, they also don't whine, cry, and complain about it, right? These are people that go against some of the most insane and ingrained things in our culture war that we've been dealing with for years, and they get some of the most insane pushback out there. It has happened time and time again. Hell, even my own self has been called out by a Hollywood producer, hi, Director X, and called out for his own stuff. And at the end of the day, boys and girls, we know what this kind of is. It's a cover-up for a lack of originality. It's cover-up for a lack of storytelling. And these people are trying to stand on the shoulders of giants that came before them all the entire time, trying to destroy and devastate everything that made all of the fans and the built-in audience that was worth the billions of dollars you spent to buy Star Wars all we ever wanted. They've just destroyed and devastated and completely and totally ignored us on the basis of some new idea or some new group of people they will come in that haven't shown up in any way, shape, or form. And the latest edition of that pushback is, of course, nothing more than a double-handed claim that, oh, we welcome criticism, except from all of those racists. So we have here our dear, sweet boys and girls bounding into comics. The Acolyte lead, Amanda Stenberg. Yes, you remember that lady who put out that horribly cringe diss track on all of us fans out there that were critical of her version of Star Wars? You know, and it's one of them situations where I don't blame her for how bad the Acolyte is. I blame the people responsible for producing the show. Leslie Headland, Kathleen Kennedy, Bob Iger, Dave Filoni, all of those kind of people. But when she decides to interject herself and inject herself into the middle of this argument and into the middle of this discussion, well, guess what, ladies and gentlemen? You're fair game, and you absolutely will be criticized for the things that come out of your mouth. So we're going to get into this article from Bounty to Comics. We're getting into all the juicy details. Not only break down by all the actual false accusations or BS, but also why the fact that even though they claim they welcome criticism, it's really funny how all of this kind of stuff gets downtrodden. But guess what? It's not just rage clickbait journalism. No, it's the legacy media out there. Some people who we would actually call access media and shills for the spirit of the age. No, they're out there roasting this and dispelling all of the nonsense she's putting out here as well. So we're going to check out this article from Bounty Comics, getting all the juicy details. But before we do, if you do enjoy our content, smash that like button, share it with all your friends, subscribe and or follow if you have not already, and leave us a comment down below, either in the comments section or in the live chat. If you're watching us while we're recording this as well, let us know what you think about this and what kind of pushback this dear sweet young lady deserves for all of this kind of stuff. So, from Spencer Bakuli, the Acolyte lead, Amanda Stenberg, claims to welcome criticism of the show, suggests large chunk of negative coverage is clickbait journalism. Oh, really? Is it now? Now, is there clickbait journalism? Is there people out there just rage baiting for the sake of rage baiting? Absolutely. Absolutely. It's part of the game. But most of those kind of people don't last. They burn out very quickly, and everybody finds out that they're full of, well, BS, and nobody pays attention to them. They go away. But everybody out there with legitimate criticisms, she's trying to lump them all into the exact same people, because this is what always happens. It's the same kind of nonsense. So in the opinion of series lead Amanda Stenberg, while there may be some legitimate complaints regarding the Acolyte's production, the negative coverage surrounding Star Wars series is nothing more than algorithm baiting and clickbait journalism. Oh, really? Oh, really? Oh, really? Stenberg offered her thoughts on the series' less than stellar audience reception during a July 8 appearance on The View, itself notably produced and broadcast by the Disney-owned ABC. Well, I'm sure the questions they ask her will be legitimate and hard-pressed. They won't be softball or baiting questions fitting the agenda in any way, shape, or form. I'm sorry, I can't even as a joke, I can't gaslight you like that. I'm not the Walt Disney Company. Amanda Stenberg talks in Star Wars in the new Star Wars series The Acolyte, The View. Asked by show host Sonny Houston if she could speak to the intolerable as described by the actress herself in the Instagram caption to her previous release diss track, she claimed to have received some from unhappy Star Wars fans in response to her casting. Stenberg asserted, "It's been very painful for me." Oh, you poor thing. You put yourself out into the public eye, making millions of dollars, being one of the 1%, one of the wealthiest among us. By the way, born with a silver spoon in her mouth, her very white daddy is very well off, ladies and gentlemen. So this is a chick who has always lived the elite lifestyle. And now, because she's lived in this cushy, pampered life her entire time, now all of a sudden, when she's getting any kind of legitimate criticism, oh, well, it's just a bunch of racism. And it's very painful. It's not something I think you can emotionally prepare for. And we welcome criticism of the show when it comes to storytelling and performance. But when it comes to death threats, horrific violence, racist language, it's unacceptable to me. Receipts, please. Receipts, please. Because this is the problem. We had this exact thing happen in the Obi-Wan series with that third sister, right? In the Obi-Wan series, we had this exact same thing. And the receipts she claimed were lackluster at best, and the only one that even came close to using a legitimate derogatory term for black people, we're pretty sure was an actual black person. So, show me the receipts. Because at the end of the day, it's still innocent until proven guilty, no matter how much you've tried to worm your way and warp the reality of the world to your own twisted image of how things should be. At the end of the day, you have to back up your accusations with legitimate evidence. So let's see the screenshots. If it's so bad, if it's so horrible, call these people out. Put them on blast in the public. Shame them for what they've done. But you won't do that. Why won't you do that? Because it's not happening. Or it's happening in such a microscopic amount and not in the way you claim, or from such an obvious bot or troll account, that you're not willing to present the evidence. Because if you did, just like what happened with the Obi-Wan, not Obi-Wan series, we'd laugh you out of good company. We'd laugh you out of the culture war. We'd laugh you out of the argument entirely. Because we know it's BS. Our guys can pull their stuff. Our guys can show you this kind of stuff. You can't, and you won't. Because you know it's BS, you know it's nonsense. Show me the receipts. And I've had to think really deep and hard about when you display discipline and when you display honor. And I guess what I mean by that is, when do you decide to utilize discipline to not engage in a reactive way to hatred? And when do you decide to engage in honor by honoring your values and your belief system? Well, that's certainly nothing you've expressed as far as the Jedi are concerned inside of that show. You've literally made them out to be, at best, questionably moral, if not legitimately the bad guys in your own show. So there's that. How about that? How much of that moral teachings are we getting from the Acolyte exactly? Just kind of curious. It sounds like some of your warped morality that you guys are trying to push into the agenda for everybody at the end of the day. I decided the most important thing to me is to be vocal, because I think that silence can send a message as well. And inaction can be very dangerous. You know what's even more dangerous? Lying about things that didn't actually happen, about not presenting evidence when you make outrageous and outlandish claims against an entire group of individuals, i.e. the actual Star Wars fans with legit criticisms out there. But of course, she says right here, here we go. It's just all about the divisiveness of the culture, talking about her diss track, and how difficult it is to navigate information in this new era. It's difficult to tell what's true, online. And these online algorithms, they shape our realities and our thinking and our clickbait journalism. And these algorithms also profit from our rage and our hatred. I feel like that's something we're aware of, but we don't necessarily have discourse or infrastructure around because it's so new. Really. So the clickbait journalism and the algorithms are all just about rage and hatred. So all of the criticism and all of that stuff, really. So if the criticism isn't legitimate, then why did Rotten Tomatoes hide the score for a certain amount of period of time? The audience score, yes, the fans, the paying customers, not all of those shills for the Acolyte media out there, not all those people that are possessed by the spirit of the age and shill, this kind of stuff. No, that was still there. Now, of course, it's been restored because, of course, they got called out for it. They absolutely got called out for it, and no one was going to put up with it. And so, of course, it was literally restored within a few hours. But it doesn't matter. They tried to do it. They thought they could get away with it. But guess what, boys and girls? It's not just all of us racist misogynists out there that are criticizing the show that have issues with it. No, ladies and gentlemen, one of their own access media, one of their own acolytes of the cult, Screen Rant. Ladies and gentlemen, Screen Rant, of all places. 10 real problems with the Acolyte. No, we're not talking about being woke. Literally, 10 legitimate criticisms. And what's funny about this, we'll go through the list real quick. Check this out. It should be set further back in the High Republic era. The Acolyte is too close to the prequels. Absolutely. Showing the Jedi Order being essentially the bad guys and have very questionable morals is a direct opposite to what we saw in the prequel movies, right? It's the direct opposite of that kind of nonsense. This is another legitimate criticism. See if any of these sound familiar to your favorite fellowship critic of this show. The show make the Jedi irredeemable. The Acolyte's Jedi seem guilty of something serious. What have we all just said? What have we been saying about this from the beginning? That it was questionable morals for the Jedi. Deconstructing who we know them to be. Characters are dying too quickly. Killing main characters is thrilling, but it's ruining some stories. The bait and switch with Carrie and Moss. The episodes are too short. Just as an episode gains momentum, it ends. Exactly. They have no idea what they're doing with pacing. They have no idea how to properly do a television show. Because once again, Disney Star Wars fired all of their, Disney fired all of their actually good TV people and instead brought in all of the movie people that have no idea how to do television. The hot Sith pattern might be a bit too much at this point. Star Wars has used the hot Sith twist a few too many times. Because yes, all of these girls dream of falling in love with the evil bad guy. That's what entices them the most. Oh, the bad guy. We see this kind of nonsense on Twitter all the time. It's weird that you're always wanting to simp for the bad guys. Ladies, you're not going to change him. Okay? You can adapt yourself around him. We see that happen in relationships all the time. I've seen some women put up with some crazy shit from men. But they love him, and so they're okay with it. But you're not going to change him. Get over this. It's weird, it's gotten odd, and it's really, really overdone at this point. Some parallels are too on the nose. The Octu connection is just one example. Hey, you remember that other stuff back there? You remember that stuff you might have liked? You remember all that? Oh, yeah, all of that. 8 episodes aren't enough. The final 2 episodes are sure to feel rushed, just like the rest of it. Some scenes need better effects. You think? In certain scenes, the effects were noticeable. Very. The dialogue is a bit superficial at times. Some lines have fallen flat. Let's just say the majority of the lines have fallen flat. Outside of the actor from the from the Squid Games, he's literally the only thing good in the show. Carrie Ann Moss was great, but she was there for literally 5 seconds. Some mysteries are dragging out for too long. The mystery of Bernadette is particularly slow moving. So literally, it's not just the racists out there and the misogynists out there on the internet. It's people like Screen Rant coming up with legitimate criticism. And no matter how much you try to pay Rotten Tomatoes to get the score hidden, to end up having to get called out and have it returned by all of us, it won't matter. At the end of the day, they're all legitimate criticisms. And if you had any actual legitimate screenshots of people seriously giving you threats or seriously being racist against you, you would be plastering those over the cover of every single news article out there. But at the end of the day, we know, just like all of the nonsense BS saying that you respect the lore and you respect George Lucas and all the rest of the stuff, just like your accusations of racism and misogyny are nothing more than gaslighting smoke screens, because everybody over at Disney, Lucasfilm, responsible for Star Wars, doesn't have a creative bone left in their body. It's why the Acolyte felt like a ripoff of every fight scene you'd seen in The Matrix, except The Matrix did it better. It's pathetic, it's sad, and this is the kind of nonsense BS gaslighting they will continue to call out. And guess what? We will not let them get away with it. We were going to document the disastrous dumpster fire of all things Disney, and especially what these idiot actors and actresses say. Because guess what? I'll gladly blame a showrunner and a writer all day long for the responsibilities of what they took. But when you decide to interject yourself and decide to call the fans all a bunch of racists who are critical of your show, nah, homegirl, that dog ain't gonna hunt. So go back to living with your very nice white daddy in his very rich house and his very nice, well-off family, and let the Star Wars fans be critical of your BS. Listen here, elite of elite. Don't you tell Star Wars fans how we're supposed to feel about things. We've been part of this since before you were born, kiddo. Why don't you keep your mouth shut and let the adults talk about things before you get called out for your BS and nonsense all over again?